Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Aaron James. Guys, it is another day, another video. It's going to be another, hopefully, mad day of Rangers transfer links, another day of perhaps Rangers as well signing players as this summer continues. Now, obviously, I think it may slow down and quieten down with the upcoming European Championships, obviously, which begin on Friday. Now, this might not be the video you may have been expecting from the title, but where's the experience? Now, I'm not for a minute going to sit here and slag off the board. I am not going to sit here and be negative. I am not going to sit here and slag the club off. Okay, so let's get that straight up. And some of you might turn off now. Feel free. Look, on a slightly negative point, do I trust this board? No. Do I trust John Bennett? No. Is it too early, however, to draw a conclusion on the board this summer in terms of have they backed the manager? Have they given the manager and Niels Koppen the wherewithal to go out and buy the players we need to compete and succeed? Too early to judge. Too early to judge. Now, look, we are sitting here in September, October time, and we are behind them by a large number of points. And it is glaringly obvious that the players that we've brought in have not been good enough, and the players that we have missed out on are being successful elsewhere, and the club is not moving forward in the way that we all want it to be, and we cannot see elements of that progress. I'll be the first to sit here and call out the board for not backing the manager, because I care about this club and I want this club to move forward. And I truly believe that this board need to fully back this manager, need to fully back this director of recruitment, and give them the chance to build this squad into a top tier talented squad. Now, there is a number of points I need to make this morning and this afternoon, this evening. Depends, obviously, when you pick up the video. Now, we signed, obviously, Clinton Nsiala yesterday. Good signing, in my opinion. Really positive news. We'll have a little bit more on Clinton Nsiala. That's going to be coming up near the end, guys. If you do want to hang on for that, obviously, please, hang on to the end. I will give you some more details and some more information about Nsiala, about his play style, about the type of player he is, etc., etc. So that's near the end of the video. Right. Okay. So people have said in relation to this signing, in relation to the Cortez signing, in relation to some degree to the Jephte signing, to the Diamande signing, to and so on and so forth. Where's the experience? You can't just buy kids. You can't just buy, young players. And I get that. 100% understand that. I really genuinely understand that there is a frustration there within the supporter base that we are not buying players who are what they would constitute as experienced professionals, veterans, leaders, etc. And I understand that. And we do need leadership on the park, don't get me wrong. But my question is, what constitutes an experienced player? Is it someone who's old? But then you might have a player who's very old, who's made not very many appearances because they've sat on the bench an awful lot throughout their career. You may have a 24, 25-year-old who, on the face of it, is 24, 25, may not seem overly experienced, but has made hundreds and hundreds of appearances in first-team football, played at a high level, played in European competition. Does that not make him experienced? Yes, it does, in my opinion. And we'll look at Rangers' squad size, average age, and experienced players in the current squad at this moment in time. Now, the other issue you need to think about and consider when we talk about the purchases of Nsiala, of Cortez, of Jephte, of Diamande, the links to Gadalmes, the links to Albian Rahmani, etc., etc. It's all about taking an aggressive approach to set up this trading model. And John Bennett at the AGM spoke about the need to take that aggressive approach to setting up this trading model. We need to have a trading model in place where we bring in players, young players, we develop them, make them better, we improve them, and then 2-3 years down the line, after they've had success, hopefully for the club, we then flip them for a large sum of money in the future. And Nsiala is certainly someone that would fit that bill. He's costing us virtually nothing other than signing on fees and wages. He's out of contract with AC Milan, despite the fact they did try to obviously keep him, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the video. So please hang on for that. Why Milan were desperate to keep him. Now, look, this is the model. This is the way it works. You bring in the likes of Cortez and Nsiala, Jephte, Diamande, then say 2-3 years down the line, we're selling them hopefully for 15, 20, 25 million pounds, making big profits, especially selling south of the border. Down there, you can make a king's ransom. You look at some of the championship clubs paying 15, 16, 17, 18 million pounds for players. even though they're just championship clubs. That's beyond, obviously, looking at the Premier League, where you're talking silly money for players. I mean, especially if you consider that Harry Maguire is worth over 80 million allegedly, and he's genuinely dreadful. And Andre Onana, goalkeeper, Manchester United, 47 million, genuinely one of the worst goalkeepers I have ever seen. So look, they will pay silly money. That's a fact. Now, so getting back to this point, it's about setting up this trading model. It's about bringing into place saleable assets. Now, we all talked, didn't we, about where are Rangers saleable assets? We talked about the fact we need a squad rebuild. We talked about the fact we need to ship players out. We need to get rid of players. But the issue you've got, and the issue that we've got, is there's not a great amount of what I would term as real saleable assets in this present squad. There aren't players there that you would say that other teams are mad keen to come and sign. There are not players there that other teams are going to be knocking down John Bennett's door or Philippe Clement's door or Niels Coppen's door and saying, please, please sell us James Tavernier. Please, please sell us Connor Goldson. Please sell us Ben Davies. It's not happening, and it isn't going to happen because as players, they've failed. And they failed repeatedly at the most highest levels to deliver trophies for our club. And they've displayed on a number of occasions in recent seasons that they haven't got the mentality, a winner's mentality. Now, if you're looking at clubs that want to come in and buy players, they want to buy players with winners' mentalities, players that have successful track records of winning trophies, have been successful. These guys haven't. They haven't proved it. And that's going to upset a lot of the Tav fanboys and the Goldson fanboys, because I know they're out there. But realistically, what have those guys achieved in 3 years? You know, personal records, James Tavernier, personal records, personal statistics, absolutely outstanding, absolutely amazing, unbelievable personal statistics, team statistics, 3 trophies in 12 years. People say he's not the problem, but he's part of the problem. Now, if we look at Rangers' current squad. So the current squad size is 30. That's it. At this moment in time, there are 30 players on our senior squad. The average age is 26.5, which may not appear that bad to you, which, you know, isn't terrible. It's not dreadful. It's not brilliant. It's not, you know, particularly bad. It's not particularly great. Now, if you look at what we have as what people would term as experienced players on our squad, Leon Balogun obviously tops out the list at 35, James Tavernier at 32, Connor Goldson 31, Jack Butland 31, Tom Lawrence is 30, Cyril Dessers, he's 29, Ben Davies is 28, John Suter is 27, Cantwell's 26, Dowell's 26, and Danilo is 25. And like I said, what constitutes an experienced player? It's not just age. Age does not just make you an experienced player. To gain experience at something, we know from the world of work, you had to have done that job or that role on a number of occasions and done that well on a number of occasions and be a good model in that role on a number of occasions. So for me, an experienced player is someone, yes, who does have a little bit of age behind them. Not a massive amount, doesn't always have to be 30 or 28, 29 or 27 or anything like that. You can have a 23-year-old, a 24-year-old who has a vast amount of first-team experience, huge amounts of first-team experience, and I would argue is probably more experienced and a better player than some players that are, say, 30, 31. Now, look at that squad. Now, yes, I accept that some of that list, hopefully, will be gone by the time the season starts. I would say that James Tavernier hopefully will be gone by the time the season starts. Connor Goldson will be gone by the time the season starts. I genuinely believe that if Connor Goldson and James Tavernier are still here next season, we will win absolutely nothing. Jack Butland hopefully will still be here. Tom Lawrence, it appears like he is on his way out with Ipswich, Sheffield United and Besiktas all interested in his services. Dessers, I think probably will still be here, unfortunately. Davis, I think, may remain. I don't think he's a bad backup. I think he gets a lot of unfair criticism. John Suter, I think, will still be here. Todd Cantwell, I still think, will be here. Dowell, I think, is a 50-50. He could well be gone. But I think Danilo will still be here. So you're still carrying a large number of what I would call experienced players just from that very short list. And that's not accounting for some of those players that have played a number of minutes in first-team football throughout their young careers. Nicholas Raskin, for example, is somebody, has over 100 appearances at a senior level, has played under 21 football, has played senior international football, has got experience. So, look, there's a lot of experience in this squad already. And it's we're I think, trying to supplement that with younger players. Now, that's the first part of the argument. I don't think for a minute, and I may be hideously wrong on this, that this club will not sign any young players, experienced players this summer. But I think one thing we have to accept is at this point in time, on the 11th of June, we are in a position where there are not a great deal of players who are out of contract, who you would actually want to sign. You've got players that are perhaps out of contract for a reason, because they're not good enough, because they're not of a sufficient standard or a sufficient talent. They haven't held down a place at another club. They are rejected from another club. They're injury prone, or their form is not great. You don't tend to have a lot of players. There are some that will disprove what I'm saying. Of course there always is, but there are not a great deal of players who are out of contract where you'll say, yeah, they're outstanding, they're amazing. Also, perhaps some of those more experienced out of contract players, you will be looking at a substantially high wage for those players. Substantially high wage. And that's something else you've got to balance. If you've got an experienced player who's 27, 28, who's got a lot of experience in playing at the top level, you're going to have to pay them an awful lot of wages. Unfortunately, as a club, we are not in a position where we can go and blast out masses of wages on one player or on two players without risking and undermining the rest of the squad. And we've seen that over the years. This squad has been so badly mismanaged for the last fuck knows how long. I mean, Wilson, Robertson, just awful mismanagement of the squad. Players on huge contracts, players who don't deserve huge contracts on massive contracts. Connor Goldson, £37,000 to £40,000 a week, totally undeserved. James Tavernier, over £30,000 a week, undeserved. Ravi Matondo allegedly on 20 to 25,000, again, not deserved. We've got too many players earning too much money who don't deserve those massive contracts. And the problem is, because they are so-called experienced professionals, you have to pay them those higher wages to keep them. So goes the theorem. So that's the next thing we've got to talk about. Contracts for experienced players cost money. We are not in a position that we used to be in the days of Gaza and Laudrup and Rickson and Alberts and Moles and Novo to go and splash massive sums of money on wages and transfer fees for experienced talent. It just isn't ever going to happen again. Yes, maybe in the long term, if this transfer model is smashing up the amount of cash that the Dortmunds, that the Leverkusens, that the RB Leipzigs, that the Marseilles of this world can generate through their player sales. PSV, for example, Feyenoord. Yes, if they can afford those better players because they're generating masses of transfer fees. So maybe in the future we can get back to signing some what you would call higher standard, more experienced players with that little bit more cash that we generate. I don't know. I'm not sure how well this trading model is going to go. It's still early days to make that assessment. So look, that's the position we're in. And I think, the days of us going out and signing top players are over. Look, if you're looking at a top level talent, someone who you would constitute as experienced, played a lot of games, outstanding talent, you're looking at an 8-figure sum. You're looking at 15, 20 million plus. This club can't afford 10 million plus. So we're not in a position to do that anymore. We've got to be shopping in the markets. We're shopping, looking for these bargains, looking for these younger players, looking for some of these players who are on a cheaper deal, because that's, as a league, not just as a club, but as a league, where we are at this moment in time. Even that lot from across the city will be in that same position. Now, okay, so let's just talk about this a little bit. Let's just kind of bring this together now. To be an experienced player, for me, you don't need to be old. Okay, you can have a 23-year-old, a 22-year-old, 24-year-old who has played a massive number of games already, has that experience, can provide that experience. You can get young players who are top leaders, who are real leaders on the park. Dujon Sterling, 24 years old, leader on the park, not played a great deal of number of games, but still is a bit of a leader on the park and will gain more experience, I think, over this forthcoming season. You look at look at Phil Foden down south, again, another very player who's gaining a lot of experience, very young player. There's a lot of players knocking around that are of what you would term as that experience because of the fact that they started at a young age playing, etc. So, look, I don't think, for one, that we will go without signing any more some experienced players in this window, ready-made players, as they're termed. I think we will sign some of them. However, the other point we need to consider is this. A lot of those players are still under contract. a lot of those players are going to the Euros. A lot of those players and a lot of the agents are tied up in what is happening in Germany over the next month or so in the European Championships. For me, the experienced players, the veteran players, the more talented experienced players who are under contract will not move until after the European Championships for a number of reasons. One, they may be at the European Championships and be looking to obviously earn a higher wage or a higher fee because of a good performance in the European Championships. Two, once those players are away with their countries, they are not going to be negotiating transfers. They are not going to be negotiating contracts with new clubs. Three, clubs will be waiting to see what happens there. There are players who don't go to the European Championships who will not move because the club will be waiting on players who are in the European Championship squads who they want to sign. And if they go and get that player, then that player could become available. I think the real movement there will come after the European Championships. That's just how it stands amongst that experienced pool of talent. It always happens when there is a major tournament like a World Cup or a European Championships. You know, those big moves don't tend to come till after the tournament. So I think that's something we've got to take into account when getting frustrated, which I've seen some people, and I know social media is a dreadful place, and I've read some of the comments that some of you guys have made on the videos as well. Look, I get your frustrations. I understand them. But I just think we need to be patient. We need to give the club time. We need to give Koppen time. We need to give Clement time. We need to give the board time, as much as that may pain me to say it, to get this right. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's not an instant fix. This squad has been so badly mismanaged for the last 4 or 5 years, probably since 55, since Gerrard's time, that we cannot undo this like that. It is not a quick fix, guys. It's going to take time. And I think for all those points I've made, you know, we've got to show the patience with Koppen, with Clement, that they will go out and get experience where needed. They will go out and sign players, but they are trying to get this transfer model going. They are trying to bring in young players to give this squad a new impetus. And also, just because some of these players are young and perhaps don't have the experience does not make them bad footballers. You know, they could come in and really, really impress. Okay, just to finish off with, let's talk a little bit more about the new signing, Clinton Nsiala from AC Milan. Now, it is worth noting, and I've read some really interesting opinions and had some really interesting stuff thrown at me over the last 24 hours about Nsiala. You know, people, you know, throwing things about, you know, well, it's only AC Milan. Well, I think we forget that AC Milan are a club of great tradition, a club that have a hell of a pedigree at producing defensive talent. And yes, they may not have won the European Cups or trophies that they've won in the past. And people go, well, you know, Manchester City are the top scorer. And so, yeah, well, Manchester City are a bunch of leeches that cheat. We know that. Or allegedly, sorry, cheat. So, look, AC Milan are a team that have a proud tradition of promoting and bringing in and developing and signing and developing great defenders. Alessandro Costa-Curta. These are the guys who I watched when I was growing up and was just dumbfounded at this talent. Alessandro Costa-Curta, Paolo Maldini, Franco Baresi, Carlo Ancelotti, Mauro Tassotti, Marcel Desailly. You know, talent, just unbelievable talent these guys had at the back. Just brilliant players. Gianluca Zambrotta, just unbelievable players. And I still remember today that European Cup final where AC Milan played Barcelona with Romario, and they absolutely took Barcelona apart. I think it was 4-0 on the night. It could have been 6-7, 8-0 on the night. That Milan team of Baresi, Maldini, Costa-Curta, Ancelotti, Tassotti was just unbelievable, was just outstanding. And this club have a tradition of not just bringing through their youth system, their Primavera, but also through signing players, turning them into top-class defenders. Marcel Desailly, who had played a lot of his career at midfield. And I think, you know, Milan kind of saw a similarity in Nsiala to Desailly. Nsiala started his career as a midfielder in Nantes. He was a box-to-box attacking, kind of like an 8, really, or could play 6 as well. And that's where he started for Nantes. And I think Milan, when they signed him, they brought him in. They saw a lot of similarities between him and Marcel Desailly. Now, I'm not saying for a minute we've signed the next Marcel Desailly. Marcel Desailly was an outstanding footballer, won trophies or wherever he went, at club level, World Cup winner, European Championship winner, just one of the top players of all time. they saw, I think, a similarity in the sort of player that Nsiala was. And now, if we're getting a player that's half what Desai was, you're getting one hell of a footballer. It's also worth mentioning that this guy, Nsiala, was spotted by this man here, Paolo Maldini. Paolo Maldini is one of the greatest left backs ever to play the game. Again, I watched this lad growing up, and he was just amazing, just amazing. And look, he spotted Nsiala. He said, in his opinion, Nsiala is a great talent, someone who will go on to be a great success in this game. Now, I know some fans out there are doubting this transfer, are saying that it's another young kid, it's another failure, blah, blah, blah. But I'm sorry, but if someone like Paolo Maldini is coming out and saying that this is a kid with talent who can go on, if he's nurtured right, to become a great player, and Niels Koppen is saying it, I'm far more likely to believe a legend like Paolo Maldini or Niels Koppen, who's not a legend, obviously, but Maldini is, than some fan on the terraces. Nothing against our fans. I love our fans. It's just, look, it's just how I feel. It's just, I think, a plain fact, to be honest with you, that, you know, if you are saying that you know more than Paolo Maldini and Niels Koppen, you're living in cloud cuckoo land. You really genuinely are. So what do we know about some details, some facts and figures about this young man, this Clinton Nsiala that we've signed? You know, what do we know about him? So let's deal with some few facts, and I'll fill you in a little bit on his profile as a player. So Clinton Nsiala, full name Clinton Nsiala Makengo. He was born on 17 January 2004. He's 20 years old. He was born in Rennes in France. He's 1.82 meters tall, which, depending where you research this, could be anything from 5'11" to 6'1". Depends, obviously, on conversion. France and Democratic Republic of Congo. He holds citizenship for both of those through his parents. He's a defender, a centre back. Look, modern centre halves don't need to be 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". He has the physicality, he has the speed, he has the tackling ability, he has the ability to jump of a man much bigger than his size, from what I have seen, watching game tape and reports I have read from youth coaches who know more than us at AC Milan. He's left-footed, so he's a left-sided player, which was what we need. You know, people talk about having that natural balance on the left side of defence, and Nsiala certainly brings that. He's signed, obviously, from AC Milan. He's currently with their youth team, their Primavera team. His contract expires on the 30th of June, hence why we are waiting till the 1st of July to formalise his signing. So that's what we know so far. As a player, Nsiala can play right side of centre-back, left side centre-back. He can play as a defensive midfielder, as I've already mentioned. He is that hybrid player that Philippe Clement wants and needs in his squad. He's spoken about the need to have those hybrid players that can play a number of different positions for him, players who are willing to fit in a number of different positions, and that's what Nsiala Makengo is. In terms of his season last year, he made 43 total appearances across all those competitions, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 goal contributions from defence, pretty decent. Played over 900 minutes of football. Had a goal every 900 minutes, and played over 3,000 minutes of football last season. He was on the bench in the Champions League for AC Milan, including at St James's Park against Newcastle. So they trusted him enough to have him on the bench in the Champions League, which kind of tells you a little bit about where they saw him as a player. Add to that the fact as well that they offered him a new 3-year contract, which, you know, he turned down because he saw his chances of getting into the first team next season has been virtually none, because of the fact that Milan were negotiating for new players, that were trying to bring in new centre-halves, you know, had an established centre-half core there already, you know, saw his chances of actually playing first-team football severely limited next season, and the manager could make him no assurances. So it's clear that he's coming here because he wants to play first-team football, he wants to progress to the next stage, and he sees Rangers as a good place to do that, which is great, which is fantastic. Now, if Milan wants to keep hold of him, he can't have been that bad a player. You know, on the whole, AC Milan, I know they've had some duffs, but overall do not keep hold of crap players. They don't do it. They don't. They're a top European club. So, you know, there's a lot of positives to look into this deal. And I think we have to have a lot of trust in our manager and in our director of recruitment that they are getting this right, that they are bringing in the right type of player to move our club forward. Guys, I'd love to know your opinions. Love to know your thoughts. Obviously, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Lots covered in this video this morning. Thank you, or this afternoon, or this evening, depending on when you're picking up. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, if you could do me 2 favors on the way out. Number 1 is to smash that like. And number 2 is to remember always, we are the people.